Everyone, I'm going to give everyone else a few minutes to join. So in the meantime, if you want, you can in the comments, in the chat, introduce yourself. Let me know where you're from, what type of brand do you want to start, anything else you want to share, and we're going to keep our microphones off for now. Okay, so we have Georgie, run a PR business for 24 years globally, and more recently have started an interior design business with a partner. It's called Studio Cameron. We wish to launch a bedding and furniture range to complement our interior business, and our first range will be block printed in Jaipur. Looking forward to the session. Okay, we also have Matrisky. Sorry, everyone, if I mispronounce your names. Melissa from New York. I'm working on Intimates and athleisure brand. Andrea, located in Boston. I have a children's footwear brand. And sorry, it's scrolling, and I'm looking to add an apparel line to the brand. Okay. Tracy here from Georgia, looking to start a linen brand. So a lot of bedding, it sounds like. Lucy, shirt dresses, currently in Jaipur and talks with a manufacturer. Marty and Tati, we are launching a Hawaii brand. A lot of clients in Hawaii. Do you know Rosalani from Wawalani? Yeah, okay. She is doing really, really well. She makes her in one weekend, she made more than what she made teaching for an entire year with her brand. She is really killing it. Um, and is works so hard. I think she just officially retired from teaching and is now like full time in her brand, which is great because I'm sure it's going to grow so quickly. Um, who else do we have? We have Elaine, interested in petite activewear in Florida. Isabella, so nice to meet you all. My grandmother started her fashion label in 1972, and I wanted to continue her legacy. I started working with female artisans in India, and my first prototype designs, men and women, arrived 2 weeks ago. Keen to know how to continue building my business. Shivani, New Jersey, moved to Hyderabad a few months ago and started my fashion brand. I've been designing bespoke Indian ethnic wear. Sorry, I keep scrolling for clients so far, but I would like to launch an actual designer label with collections that would be made to order so that it is more scalable business looking forward. Kemi from Dallas, women's lifestyle brand, mostly blazers and leisure wear. All right, let's get started with the questions because there are a lot of them and we only have an hour and I want to make sure we have time for everyone. So if you don't know me, I assume you all know me from my blog, my emails, Instagram. I'm Melanie. I worked in fast fashion for a really long time. I left that world about now like 8, maybe even 9 years ago. And I have a consulting business where I manufacture things for brands that are established. And I also help people who kind of don't know what they're doing, but want to start fashion lines, start their brands. So today we are going to answer some questions. There are a few things I want to go over before. If you are a supplier, please, you can leave right now. If anyone from this call reaches out to you and offers you supplier services, my advice is to ignore them and not work with them. Anyone who is sliding into your DMs, aggressively pursuing you, using tactics like this where they join a call and then try to get you to work with them, that is a huge red flag. You do not want to be meeting suppliers on Instagram. People who get a lot of this on Instagram, when people comment on my posts, suppliers will then message them and say, oh, you can work with me. That is a red flag. If they are doing that, they don't have business. And if they don't have business, there's probably two reasons. One, they might just be getting started, which, okay, maybe that's all right. Two, they probably don't have repeat customers. They find new people, they get people to work with them, they do a bad job, and then they're out there searching for their next kind of con. So do not meet people who approach you like that, or don't work with them. It's a huge red flag. So if you're a supplier, best of luck. This isn't the space for you. And every call, I always get someone telling me that suppliers were DMing them on the call. Why am I not giving, I'm not going to give sourcing contacts. A few of you asked for sourcing contacts and I'm not going to do it. And the reason I'm not going to do it, and I think the call I had yesterday with someone is a great example. They called me and they told me that they had this huge order they wanted to place, 400 pieces, 10 styles. I'm ready to go. I have all my patterns. I get on the phone with them and they've essentially just wasted thousands of dollars. What happened was, one, their budget didn't support the order that they thought that they were going to be able to place. So they could have done very simple budgeting work. And if they had done that, they would have realized that they could only afford to make one or two styles, which is fine. You can launch with one or two styles. Instead, they developed 10 styles, and they didn't just develop 10 styles, they had patterns made and they graded the patterns, which is a huge mistake because if you have your patterns made and you grade it to all the different sizes and you've never seen a sample, now when you see that sample, if you need to shorten the strap a little or something is off, you now need to pay for each graded style to be corrected instead of just one. So a lot of times people think if I just have the supplier that my competitor uses or I just do this, I'll be fine. And unfortunately, you won't be, because if you do these things in the wrong order, you'll end up wasting your time and wasting your money. And it is not the factory's job to tell you the right way to do it. You tell the factory what you want them to do, and they do it. They're not going to say this is wrong. They're just going to do it. So you need to stop thinking that finding the proper partner will solve all of your problems, because it could actually cause a lot more. And as we go through people's questions, it's a common theme here where sometimes you're asking things and you need to take like 7 steps back before you even get to that point. So that's why I'm not giving suppliers, because it won't help you. Yeah, and I did this for a while. I had a $300 supplier list in 2022. I ran it. You tell me everything about your brand, and I give you the perfect suppliers for you, your brand, and your needs. Not a single one of those people launched. Not one. That's a shocking statistic considering that my Launch My Conscious Line program has a launch rate of 10%, which is really high. The average online course, most people don't even finish at a 1% rate, and 10% of people are able to launch their brand. So that's why I'm not giving suppliers. It's not going to benefit you in any way. And I've tried it, I've done it, it's not going to work. All right. And then at the end, we have a giveaway. We're going to do 50% off of the sourcing bootcamp, which is running this summer. All of my prices have gone up. So Launch My Conscious Line, if you've been following along, it's a 6-month program. It's now going up to $10,000. The bootcamp is $3,000. It's an 8-week program. And it's really an accelerated program on just how to source. It's not all the brand stuff and website building and things like that. It's just sourcing and just product. And then I'm going to be doing a couple of other things in between during the summer. But this boot camp is going to be the cheapest way of working with me and getting mentorship and having like more calls like this one where you're live. I mean, the calls in the program are different because like I actually know you and your brand, so they're a lot more interactive, but similar to this where, you're getting your questions answered. Okay, so let's get started because there is a lot to cover. So the first question we have is from Zia, and Zia Cohen. Kids Line is the name of the brand that you want to start. Your MOQ is 100 pieces. either made in India or Portugal with a $3,000 budget. So with a $3,000 budget and a 100-piece MOQ, you're really only looking at being able to develop one style. I just want to be clear with you. Your production is probably going to be somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 with shipping. And then you're going to need another $1,000 for product development, which leaves you with about, if you make it in India, it will be a little bit cheaper than Portugal, but that leaves you with like $500 to $700 for your marketing, which isn't a lot. You cannot afford to make more than one style here. And unless you're really, really sure of your one style, I would hold off, save your money, and do this when maybe you have a little bit more saved. Or maybe do some print on demand stuff where you don't need such a high MOQ. And print on demand is great. You can go on Instagram. I have stuff on print on demand. The blog, I have stuff on print on demand. I have tons of resources on print on demand. It's a great method. Jordan, Beautiful Genius, is a great example. She started her business doing print on demand, which is where you're printing already made garments. She did really well. We moved her to a factory. Her orders are growing and growing and growing, and she's killing it. But the print on demand allowed her to do these tiny MOQs with a small budget and grow her business from there. So I would maybe recommend something like that for you. Anyway, your questions. If I want colorful stripes for fabric, should I try an ins fabric in stock at textile mills or print on demand here with a designer? I would print on demand, or I would use some available stock fabric. Our places like We're Here's textile and merchant mills, fabric mills, or fabric manufacturers. They're expensive. I don't really work with them. So I wouldn't, I would use other people personally. The designers are getting their fabric from, then sending to India apparel manufacturers, for example. So there are two ways of working with a factory. One is where you are sourcing everything yourself and you send it to them and they cut and sew it and they make it into a garment. The second way is called full package, where you literally say, I want to make this shirt. And they say, we did it all. We got your labels, your tags, your fabric, your buttons, your whatever. It's going to cost you this much. So that there are two ways of working. Neither is right, neither is wrong. It depends on you, what you're making, what your budget is, your specific goals, all that type of stuff there. So there are two ways of working and you can work either way. The difference between producing kids' clothes in India versus Portugal is one more expensive than the other. I'm hearing a lot of kids' clothes are being produced in Portugal. So the reason everyone is running to Portugal is because they have really good business incentives. I think there's something like 10 years of not paying taxes if you open up a business in Portugal that's worth over, I believe, $1 million. It's kind of like the business equivalent of a golden passport. So that's why all these big businesses are running there. There's money to be saved. For small brands, I don't really have a lot of brands that are working there because they really are the factories they're after, these larger, the Zaras of the world and those types of places. So I don't see a benefit to working in Portugal. It sounds buzzy. It sounds more ethical than, China. But at the end of the day, there's shit happening all over the world. In any country you go to, there are good factories and there are bad factories. So I don't see necessarily a benefit of Portugal over someplace else because I know a lot of people think Portugal is like a very ethical place to work for some reason. They did great PR on it, but you have to still vet and do your own research and figure out where it is that you're making. I think, with a 100-piece MOQ, you're probably going to have better luck in India than you are in Portugal finding a supplier. Can you explain to me MOQ again? Does that mean one style, one color, one size? If so, if I have 5 different prints, does that mean I need to do a 500 MOQ? So MOQ is per style, per color, and you can do generally, it depends on your MOQ. So if you're making a black t-shirt, and you're making 100 pieces, your factory might let you do 5 sizes. If you're making a black t-shirt and you're making 20 pieces as your MOQ, they're probably going to say you get 1 size. And if you want to make 2 or 3 sizes, you need to, sorry, my allergies are killing me. You need to pay us more. So the number of sizes you're going to be allowed to make kind of vary based on the MOQ that you're given, but you should get some variance with your sizes. MOQ is always style per color. So this same tank top in white is a whole other MOQ. Just so we're clear, if you tell a factory, I want an MOQ of 1,000 pieces, they're going to expect that every design that they are designing for you, they're getting 1,000 pieces, 1,000 pieces for the black tank top, 1,000 pieces for the white tank top. If you then come to them and you're like, no, these 10 styles, I want just 100 pieces each, 1,000 pieces total, they very well could come back and say, we're not working with you. We don't do 100-piece MOQs, or they're going, 100% going to jack up your price. So you need to know and be very clear. That's a great question for everyone. How do you feel about digital printing? Is this the best way to go if I'm wanting fun kids prints like Tiny Cottons and Bobo? Yeah, so I don't know these brands, but digital printing is great for small brands. It allows low MOQs. It allows a lot of flexibility in the types of prints that you're able to create. A lot of small brands start with digital printing. It is the most expensive kind of printing, but it allows you to not have to commit to these large orders that you do with screen printing, because when you commit to a large order, then it's kind of stressful having to sell out of these like one style. And if you get that one style wrong, you're sitting on a lot of inventory that no one wants. I'm using a manufacturer in India. Will they help me source fabric? So yeah, we just went through that with the full package. I am needing fabric sourcing more than anything at this point in my process. Are you able to, so we're not giving any sort of contacts. And I'm willing to bet that you don't need fabric sourcing right now. I think you need to go through your budget again with a $3,000 budget. I don't think you need to be sourcing any fabric. I think you need to be looking at realistically what you can do, and maybe admitting to yourself that you don't have a 100-piece MOQ. I would not be doing a 100-piece MOQ with a $3,000 budget. And I would be very strategically choosing the styles that I was going to be making. So again, like I said in the beginning, a lot of people think they need fabric suppliers, different suppliers. What you need right now is a plan, a feasible plan, because the plan that you have is probably not going to lead you to success. $3,000 with a 100-piece MOQ is, I would never allow one of my clients to do that. Okay. Michelle, what type of brand do you want to start? Looking to start a luxe couture inspired brand with bedding, embroidery, and hand painted accents, dresses, corsets, blazers, blouses, pants. What type of MOQ you want to do your first launch with? 10 to 50 piece MOQ, 6 to 9 looks. Your total budget is 10K. Okay, that's realistic. You're probably going to have to be on the lower side of that. 25 piece MOQ, 6 looks. But you're in the realm of kind of being realistic. I think, depending on how much embroidery you have and how much handwork you have, you might actually have to make less. Embroidery, just so everyone knows, is charged by the stitches. So the next time you go shopping, look at embroidery. Sometimes you'll notice the embroidery is like kind of loose, and you can see the fabric through the embroidery. They're doing that to cut down on price, and it cuts down on price a lot. When you see really thick, dense embroidery, they spent a lot of money on that. So you could have the same 2 dresses in a photo, and one could cost like $50 to make and one could cost $7. And if you look closely, it'll most likely be because of the embroidery, or because one's polyester and one's cotton. It'll be because of the quality of the embroidery. Embroidery is one place where it can really fluctuate your price. So keep that in mind. But your budget, you're realistic for your budget, which is good. So when you're looking for a factory, do they only produce sample when a large deposit is made? And what happens if you really do not like their work? Can you pull out without losing the deposit? So this is a great question, because again, a lot of people just get started with factories not knowing. So I'm very happy that you're asking this. You do not give your factory any sort of money for production until you have a perfect sample. There is no, oh, you don't like this strap, you want it a little thicker, we'll just fix it in production. No, that doesn't happen. They make another sample and you have to pay for that sample, but they make another sample until it is perfect. Once it is perfect, then you move into production. For sampling, it is kind of the way it goes. You pay 100% up front. If you feel uncomfortable with that, if you're making 10 styles, only start with 1 style with them. If 1 style goes well, 3, 5, then 10. Don't give, especially if you don't do the proper vetting work, which I'm sure none of you are doing. There's a way of vetting your supplier to make sure that you don't get screwed in the end. We don't have 5 hours to go through that, so we're not going to go through that today. That's something that we do in the boot camp. But if you're not vetting your supplier properly, and I'm sure 99% of you are not, start with 1 style. Have them do a good job with that 1 style, build that trust, and then start giving them more money. Now, once that sample is perfect and you're ready to place your production order is probably going to be 50% at the time of order, 50% before it ships, meaning you're going to have to do quality control either yourself or hire someone else or do a Zoom call before you give them that final payment. Because if you pay them and have them ship it to you and there are issues, that's kind of the end of it. They're not going to, it's going to be too expensive for you to ship it back, and they're not probably going to take it back and correct it for you. So For samples, 100% payment is due for them to start work on the samples. Production, 50% at time of order, 50% before it ships. Now, as you work with your factories for longer and longer, they might give you better deals. Maybe they give you 30% at the time of order and then 70% 1 month after it ships. That's called net 30. So you can start getting better deals, but really no one's going to give a small brand who's making 100 pieces that they don't know really great terms. It's 50-50 split. That's fair because you've put some skin in the game. They know that you're not just going to walk away from the order. You've put money down and they're not going to not make the order because they want to get that other 50% of the money. So that's kind of like a safe way to do it. If you're, and again, start with one style sampling and then sample more to make sure that you're in a good relationship with them because I can guarantee you're not going to vet them properly, probably, and this will keep you safe and keep you from losing money. That's kind of the goal of this call right now. I can't tell you how to do everything. That's, 30 hours worth of learning. But I can tell you quick ways to keep you safe so you don't lose your money. It might go a little slower, it might be a little rockier, but it won't bankrupt you and it will enable you to keep moving forward and not have to give up. So that's the goal of this call right now and the advice that I'm giving, just to be clear. Okay, so that's that. Anna, working with sustainable yoga wear brand, the MOQ you want to make is 20 to 30 pieces per design, 4 designs per piece, sorry, design pieces, and a 10K budget. Budget's realistic, that's great. I decided to source the fabric knit on my own. I'm looking for trade show exhibitions in India where I can network with people and potentially could be useful for sourcing. So Anna, India is a terrible place to source yoga wear. Most of the brands I have a lot of, I live half the year in India. I'm very familiar with the Indian market when it comes to underwear, swimwear, and athleisure. It sucks. The reason for that is because India does not have a good grasp on manufacturing elastic. Even elastic bands, there's two qualities. There's there's export quality and there is local market quality. You have to be very careful to make sure you're getting export quality elastic because it's just terrible. There's no stretch. If there is stretch, it almost like acts as a cinch. Like it is just so unflattering and so uncomfortable, the elastic, most of the elastic you find in India, along with the elastic that goes into fabrics. So, I know one manufacturer that's doing somewhat decent swimwear. I'm not crazy about it. They're good in a pinch. They import all of their fabric from Italy and from China. They don't use Indian fabric. So yeah, if you're doing leggings, India is not the place for you. I would do leggings in China. I would do leggings in China, personally. But if you want to make them in India, you're going to need to find someone to import that fabric for you. So I don't think an Indian trade show is really where you need to be. Also, if you're doing 20 to 30 pieces, I'm not sure where you're located, but if you're not located in India, you're probably just going to want to make 20 to 30 pieces locally. By the time you sample, ship back and forth, all this shipping, it's often more cost effective and time effective to make wherever you are in the world compared to having it done in India. And again, that's something that you have to do in the beginning in your costing exercises. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'll go overseas, it will be cheaper. Often not for these low MOQs. For these low 20-piece MOQs, it often makes more sense to you're spending more on the product, but you're spending less on the shipping and the everything else. If you need 3 sets of samples, you're already looking at maybe $2,000 of shipping fees, depending on where FedEx and DHL is, because those prices fluctuate. So regardless, India is not the place to do swim. It's not the place to do leggings. I have a friend who's starting an underwear brand. She was gung ho on making in India. And after a year of sourcing in India, she found a supplier in China in less than a week and she's moving forward with that, just to give you kind of a realistic view. And she's Indian. She's lives in India. She's been in India her whole life. She has all the resources and contacts in the world, and she's choosing to import from China her brand that she's starting. So take with that what you will. Okay. Lucy, we've spoken before, but my phone was on the blink that time. However, I did get a video response. I'm currently in Jaipur in talks with a small factory, have refined my products to 6 styles, and we're going to be doing some samples within the next 2 weeks. So far, I've envisioned 3 sizes, small, medium, and plus. That seems like a jump. Small, medium, plus. Small, medium, large. Why are you skipping the large? That to me doesn't make any sense. All the styles are losing loose fitting and oversized. anyway, so we're working on sizing parameters. I don't know your style, so I can't really fully comment to this. Maybe you want to do a medium large, and a extra large, XX large like that, so you can have free sizing. An XXL isn't really considered plus. I think plus you're looking more like at like a 4X. So I wouldn't market this as plus. I work with a lot of plus size brands, and I think most of them would say extra, extra large is not really plus. They're doing like, like 8X, 10X, 12X. That's more plus. Um, just how things are going. Because if you market it as plus and you're only going up to an XXL, you're going to have a lot of angry people, and they're probably going to try to cancel you on the internet. Just so you know. Um, Working with size parameters, I'll be selling at a market where Zimmerman first started out. So I know this out. So known as a fashion clothing market. And this is where I'll gather feedback, get to know people, and collect email addresses and marketing ideas. Zimmerman is a really old brand. They've been around forever. And where they started, it might not be the hot spot anymore. From what I understand, like the hot spot where people are spending like crazy money on new designers, Rhinebeck and the Catskills. A lot of people, and this I just know New York area because when I'm in the States, I spend a lot of time in New York. A lot of people are moving from the Hamptons, where that used to be all the buzz, and they're moving to the Catskills. And there's like a lot of just trend making and money being spent on artisan things there. That's mind blowing that it wasn't this way pre-pandemic. So things have shifted. I encourage you to look at what's currently going on. Zimmerman getting their start there isn't enough for me personally. If you were like, invest in my brand, I don't think I would, because that happened a long time ago. It didn't happen now. What is the market like now? So the other thing is, this is no indication that you'll succeed. A great example of this is Love Shack Fancy. Love Shack Fancy had their first store in Sag Harbor in the Hamptons, and they've exploded, right? They've had collaborations with Target. They're on every influencer. Everyone knows Love Shack Fancy. They are killing it. Every season, there are stores on that strip that come and go. They are right next to, across the street, 1 block away from Love Shack Fancy. They're offering nice product. They're offering it at a similar price, but they are failing. They are not making it to season 2. Just being where someone is that's successful is not enough for you to be successful. That's like 1% of the equation, literally, maybe even less than 1% of the equation. There's so much on the back end, and the planning and the marketing and the numbers that goes into it, especially because, I don't know how much this market costs you, but Love Shack Fancy, when they first arrived, their rent was a lot lower. Anyone who's trying to come in and compete with them now, they're paying like 20 times the rent that Love Shack Fancy used to pay. It's hard to succeed when you're paying so much more just for a box to put your stuff in. So don't think because you're doing what other people, and this is a great example. This could be a fantastic market. I'm not saying that it's not, but just for everyone listening, don't think because you're doing the exact steps in the same places that your competitor is, that you'll be successful. Don't think because you're in the same factory as them, you'll be successful. That is not the recipe for success, trying to emulate what someone else has done, because there's so much more going on behind closed doors that you don't know about that makes it a success. You're only seeing the 10% that's public, not the 90% that's private. So please don't have that as, your marketing strategies, because other people are asking marketing questions. So I figured we'd just go over that right now. I have no idea how many of these sizes to get. Okay, so feedback to know people and collect email addresses and marketing ideas. That's great. Always be, collecting as many contacts as you can at all times. That's a wonderful strategy to have. I have no idea how many of each size to get. Obviously, this will help me determine the cost of the garments, and there are other factors such as fabrics, colors, which we are discussing. How do I actually decide the production numbers of each size? So this should have been done before you ever even emailed a supplier. This should have been done before you got on a plane and you went to India. Now is not the time to be doing this. I'm going to be very, very honest with you. You should have had a plan of, I'm making this many styles. I need it at this price point. I'm going to retail at this price point. This is what my customers want. If you're asking me how many pieces you should make, you don't have a handle on your budget. If you're asking me, how many styles you should start with, you don't have a handle on your market. I think and then you go on to say you don't know what sizes to make. You think middle sizes seem to be safe. This isn't necessarily, and you try to research your competitors, but you don't know. This isn't The sizing again, and I get a lot of questions on sizing, which is good for us to go over right now. But you know, you for one brand, I worked with a brand and they only made extra small clothing. They didn't make small, they didn't make medium, they only made extra small. They sold in like a resort location and they sold out every time. And their customer was an extra small, super, super skinny women. Um, and they did great. They killed it. And that's what they did. And then I have customers, like I just mentioned, they're making 10X, they're making 12X. They're not even making smalls. So your sizing is really dependent on who your customer is. Again, going back to all that beginning research, I can't tell you what size to make. I can't tell you how much to make. I can't tell you what pricing it should be at to make your numbers work so you're profitable and you don't go out of business. Um, you know, what you need to do all that yourself. You need to take a step back. You need to look at your budget and you need to look at the research that you've done into your niche and then make those decisions. So I think, you know, I personally, if I were you, I would finish all of my developments. I would have everything ready to go, but I wouldn't place an order right now. I would go home and I would let everything sink in. I would look at the collection in totality. I would take a minute. I would, you know, take some images and show them to people and really get a handle on what your customer wants. And not your friends, not your family, your actual niche. That's who you need to ask these questions to. You can't, it doesn't, you know, if you're making women's dresses and you ask, you know, a 80-year-old man what he thinks of the dresses. It doesn't matter because he's not your customer. So make sure that you're asking people who are, you know, in your niche. So, and this is also really important advice because a lot of times people get to India and they get in this frenzy. It's like they're in some sort of uh hypnosis and they're just buying and buying and yes and yes. And then they get home and they're like, what have I done? I didn't need all of that. Like, what was I thinking? And it happens every time. I take so many people to India. I have so many guests in India and I watch them shop. Whether they're designing for themselves or they're just shopping in the markets, like it is literally like a psychosis. And they're just like, give me all the things. So it really would behoove you, especially hearing that, you know, you're asking these questions that really should have been set before you even got on the plane. Leave India, take a breath, look at your collection, show it to your audience, and then decide how much you want to make. They're not going to not work with you. You have all the work done. You can place the bulk whenever you want. Take a breath. And this is really good advice for everyone. Everyone is in such a frenzy to launch, to start making money, to quit their job. You make these decisions, and if you had just taken a beat and stopped, you might have made better decisions. It's very, very, very common, unfortunately, for people to get their entire production order and be like, I hate all these designs. If I could do it over, I would do all these things over. Some of that is just, you know, being nervous about showing your line to the world. And some of that is you could have done it better. Um, you know, for my Hawaii friends, Rosie did something, you know, really smart. And we talked about this for a long time, but she designed her first line and it was going to really, the time was not on her side. And she could have launched it, but it would have been stressful and it would have been hard. And what we decided was let's stop. Instead of launching spring, let's launch fall. She launched fall. She took all of her garment styles and she just made new patterns that were more fall colors. Launched in fall, okay, when it came time for spring the next year, all the work was done. All she had to do was place that order and she was able to focus on her business, which I believed allowed her to grow so rapidly because she wasn't designing. She already done the designing and she didn't rush the beginning. It is so important not to rush these things. And the sad reality is starting a clothing line takes a lot of time. You know, you hear fast fashion, fast, it's so fast. It's not. Even in fast fashion, things move slowly. I would start designing for like Christmas, uh, you, sometimes 9 months before, or even like sometimes even 13 months before, depending on like what we were doing. It takes a long time. And then sometimes you are chasing styles and chasing trends, but bulk of it is designed well in advance. So everyone that is here, if you take anything away from this call, it's to take your time and to do things the right way and to do them in the right order and not get crazed. Again, I need a fabric supplier. I need a fabric supplier. You probably don't. You probably need to do like 22 things before you need a fabric supplier. So, I keep going back to that, but it's so true. And I've had over 450 people now go through the program, and I have enough experience to see who makes it and who doesn't. And the people who do are the people who just they go slow. Um, and they aren't the first to launch, but they're the ones that have season 3, 4, 5, and so on. So keep that in mind while you're doing this. I know it can be frustrating, but go slow. Yeah, so I'm sorry, Lucy, to get back to your question, I can't tell you what to make or how much to make or what you should be doing. But I can tell you to take a pause, and look at what you've made, get out of India, think, and then move forward. Um, okay. So, Isabella, an artisan fashion label, belonged to your grandmother who founded it in 1972. I already produced my first prototype design with 2 different women cooperatives in India, and they arrived 2 weeks ago. Okay, great. You're making around 5 to 10 pieces where you're sourcing fabric now, and they don't have MOQ. Your budget to start is $25,000. Okay, all of this feels realistic. You could probably even make more than, 5 to 10 pieces if you wanted to, but you don't have to. Would like to get to know more about what steps I need to take now, like marketing. That's a wonderful that you're thinking about that, because every person that I've had that's launched a brand with me always says, you pushed me to do marketing and all I wanted to do is focus on the manufacturing. And I'm so sorry I didn't take it more seriously. It is so hard to sell today. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I know you're probably getting ads. If you're following me, you're for sure getting ads on Instagram that are like, want to work from the beach every day, want a 3-hour workday, 2 days a week or whatever. Make your product, drop ship. It's so easy. Generational wealth, right? Like all these things I'm sure you've gotten the ads for. The reality is it's hard work. It's super hard work. And the design, manufacturing, product development, all that is like 20% of it. 80% has to be sales and marketing. And that's just the reality of it. Like, to do the things that are fun, the fashion stuff, you have to do things that a lot of people find aren't fun, like the sales stuff. So I'm really happy that you're bringing this up, because the sooner you start your marketing, really, even if you just have an idea, you should start your marketing today. Make an Instagram account. Doesn't have to be your brand name. You could always change the account name later on. You don't have to have content. Start commenting, start following influencers, start kind of infiltrating your niche. This way, you know who are the key players and they're getting to know you because you're commenting on their stuff. You can reshare what other people are posting. You can share your story. There's always something to post, and there's always a way to build your audience. Carla, email went out about her last week or 2 weeks ago, one of my students, and she became an influencer essentially before she launched her brand. She had a following of, I don't know, 20 30K, and she sold to them. So you don't want to make your product and then start trying to find people. You want people excited to buy your product. So for a year and a half, she was like becoming an influencer. And that's what every brand needs to do now. You have to be your own influencer. You can't just rely on you don't have to put your face on the camera. There are lots of ways of doing it, but you do need to get started now. So to get a little bit deeper into it, you need every funnel, every source that you can get. You shouldn't just be e-com. You shouldn't just be wholesale. You shouldn't just be, we get all of our sales from Facebook ads. You should be getting your sales from everywhere. You should have a good email funnel set up. You should be doing PR. You should be doing SEO. You should be doing social media. You should be doing wholesale. You should be doing all the things. A lot of people are like, I don't want to do wholesale. If I make a shirt and I sell it for $100, I have to sell it to the store for $45. I'd rather make $100 selling it on my website. Getting that traffic to your website is going to cost you more than $55. That's the way it is right now. Facebook ads, I don't know what's going on, but like people are making, like, you spend $1, it used to be you made 11 or more. Now you spend $1 on Facebook ads, you're lucky if you break even. A lot of brands' goals is that they will spend, $1, and they'll make 50 cents, and then they hope they'll capture that customer and that customer will reorder, and that's when they make their money. So times have changed. Facebook ads, I'm not saying don't run them, but like Facebook ads is like everything else you're doing is like up here in priority, and Facebook is like down here. You can't even see it. It's just, not the priority, because it's not converting the way that it used to. So, you have to be doing all the things. Then if one thing breaks, SEO breaks, Instagram bans you. You know, my Instagram is wild. I have 3 million views on one video and 1,000 on another. That's how Instagram is these days. And this is a great way for figuring out if an influencer is phony or not right now. 2,000 likes, 1,800 likes, 2,200 likes, 1,800 likes. They're buying them. The real way the algorithm is working now is like 1 million likes, 100 likes, 1,000 likes, 100 likes, 2,000 likes, 1 million likes. There's a lot of variance, and no one really knows why they're doing this, but it's a great indicator for you not to lose your money. Because what a lot of these people do is give me free product and then they'll buy 1,000 likes. That doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't do any, I mean, they get free product, but like there's a lot going on in that world of Instagram, but the point is that Instagram's in chaos right now. So you need to be on TikTok, you need to be on Twitter, you need to be on all the things. You need to be doing email marketing, SEO, blog, PR, getting all those features. You have to be doing everything because right now the world of marketing is really chaotic. The things that were working even 3 months ago are no longer working today. So get started, do all the things, do them now. Even if you want to start PR, you can start PR. Reach out to the editors. Hey, I'm launching in 6 months. Just wanted to say hi. I'm making a brand of pickleball clothing. I'm a pickleball expert. If you have anything that's coming up about pickleball, think to include me. That's it. There's always, my point is there's always something you can be doing, even when you think there's nothing that you can be doing. There's always something you can be doing, especially in the world of marketing. All of you, great question, Isabella. Start today. Whatever you can do, start it today because it's going to help you a lot. Your product will get made. I promise you that. You'll get your product made. Everyone does. Getting the audience to buy your product, I can't guarantee you. And you have to start right now if you do want to have a successful launch. That's a definite. Okay. Your name, what type of brand do you want to start? Marty and Taddy, Hawaiian heritage brand of authentic aloha wear. Now, I'm really curious because I'm just one person. I feel like maybe this market is getting saturated because everyone wants to be Rosie. I get probably like 10 people a month from Hawaii wanting to start Hawaiian clothing, and they all want to be just like Rosie. So, I think maybe make sure that you have a special niche within that space that makes you different. Because if you're just making Hawaiian shirts, I think in the next 6 months to a year, you're going to see a shit ton of brands doing that just based on like the emails that I get. And everyone who's making Hawaiian clothing in Hawaii isn't emailing me. There's other people out there too doing it, right? So I think the market is getting more saturated. The nice thing I've realized though about Hawaii is that customers are very loyal. And people really like supporting like local brands. So I would just, I don't know a lot about you or your goals, but just hearing you're making Hawaiian heritage clothing, find something in that niche. The same way with like, okay, I just use the example of pickleball. Find something within pickleball. Are you going to make like girly clothes, like, Taylor Swift and Zendaya, the Disney girl, where they're wearing these kind of like ballerina inspired pickleball and tennis outfits, or are you going to make something very athletic and practical, right? There are niches within pickleball. It's not just pickleball, it's all these niches. If you're making kids clothes, are you making it, for the crunchy granola mom, the mom on the go, the fashionable mom, right? There are all these different types of moms. You can't appease them all. You have to niche in. So try to do that too with the Hawaiian clothing. I know just having a Hawaiian brand, it kind of was enough for a while, but just based on the sheer volume of emails that I'm getting, I think in a year it's going to be saturated. So make sure you're niched in on something special in that category. And this is good advice for everyone. I'm making nursing clothes, Olivia After 9, nursing clothes for athletic moms who want to run and yoga and whatever, right? She niched in. It wasn't just another hatch where like we kind of make a little the gap for pregnant women, basically. She niched in one thing, and that's the brands. If you look at who's successful and who's struggling, the brands that really niche in, and this isn't just for you guys, with the question, it's for everyone. The brands that succeed are the ones that really they take a niche and they niche in even more into that niche. All right. Minimum order quantity, 1,500 pieces, and a jacket that is lined with Aloha print fabric. Okay. What is your total budget to start the brand? 7K on design and first production units, maybe 10K for our first run. That's realistic. Some jackets like lightweight outerwear wind or rain jackets are very high quality Patagonia level brands. Our first jacket is missing good finishes and high quality sewing. So that's a factory problem. If the sewing isn't good, your sewing will never get better with the factory that you're at. It's kind of like these are their capabilities. This is what we can make, take it or leave it. If you sit and you try to be like, well, let's try to get your stitching a little straighter and let's try to get whatever, that's not your job. You're not, I'm guessing, trained in factory operations or how to train a sewing team. So don't make that your job. Move on. Find someone else, sample with someone else. Now, I wish you hadn't have gotten this far, because if you had kind of rewound and done everything properly and vetted properly, you would have seen that their stitching quality wasn't to your standards before you even got to this point where you'd made samples and everything else. So rewind, find someone new. This happens sometimes, especially again, like I said, when you don't do the proper vetting and you kind of are like, this isn't what I wanted. Everyone can't sew well. Is another thing. Like there are people who can sew well and there are people that can't sew well. Just working with a professional factory is not enough to get a professional product, because there are a lot of people who aren't actually professional. So, quick tip for the trims and the zippers and the buttons, maybe you source those yourself. So if you can live with their stitch quality and then it's just like these snaps, I hate, these zippers, I hate, source them yourself. Get on Alibaba. Um, Alibaba is a numbers game. It's like, yeah, my husband's dad once was giving advice to someone. He's like, dating's a numbers game. You've got to be out there seeing at least 5 girls and maybe one will work out. That's exactly how Alibaba works. People are like, I reached out to one supplier on Alibaba and like it didn't work out. I'm like, you have to reach out to 50. But you can find anything on Alibaba and you can find anything on Alibaba at any price and any quality if you just take the time and you have the patience to kind of sift through it. So that might be your solution. Get on Alibaba, find, there are also a lot of other, I mean, I work with a lot of other trim suppliers. Again, I'm not giving out contacts, but the quickest way for you to do this on your own, Alibaba, find the zippers you want, find the whatever labels, tags you want, and send them to your factory and have them use those. That's going to be a quick fix for you. Again, if the stitching sucks, like you've got to go, move on, cut your losses, and take it to the next place. Okay. Um, Better drawstring. Yeah. So like if you just want like, like the cute like ends of the drawstring and things, like Alibaba's you're gonna get anything that you want. You can even make custom molds that could have like your logo on them, or I don't know, like a Hawaiian flower, whatever you want. You can get so many cool things. And you can sort it. Alibaba's not just China, just so everyone knows, it's associated with China. Majority of the suppliers are China. Find people in Italy, India, United States. There are people from all over the world on Alibaba right now. So again, you have to vet these people. And there are good suppliers and there are bad suppliers everywhere. China, Alibaba, it's bad, it's slave labor. It's not necessarily. That's your job to figure it out. Working in America doesn't mean you're safe from these terrible things. A lot of people in America have businesses where they import from China and then they sell you from America. And most people don't realize they're buying Chinese products. Bali doesn't make fabric. Bali imports all of their fabric from China. They then make the product and it says made in Bali, because for a made in tag, it just has to be where the product was made, not actually where the components came from. So a lot of this Bali swim, it's a Chinese product, assembled in Bali, essentially. So, keep that in mind. I know a lot of people are like, I won't use Alibaba, I won't do this. There's good and bad stuff everywhere. Look at in Italy's shadow economy, what people are being paid. The post I just did about Giorgio Armani and their slave labor bags, that happened in Italy. Downtown LA, what's happening with the workers down there, right in the United States. This all happens everywhere. And if you're starting I use ethical in quotes because ethical can mean anything to anyone. If you're starting an ethical brand, just saying, I won't go on Alibaba, you're not really seeing the full picture or understanding how this industry works or understanding the onus that vetting a supply chain takes. Again, question comes up a lot. So that's why I'm going over it. It's not necessarily directly related to you, Marty and Tatiana, but it's something that a lot of people think about. So why not just talk about it? Okay. Shivani, what your name and what type of brand you want to start? starting a designer label focusing on Indian ethnic wear, Indo-Western clothes. Moved to Hyderabad to start my label, and I'm looking to cater to the US market with my products. I'm not sure what your MOQ is, but I would prefer it to be low since I want it made to order company. I'm thinking that customers can select from some standard sizes and will provide or submit their custom measurements if they prefer, especially if they have plus size, and we'll make them. Okay, so this is, something that I normally wouldn't recommend someone get into with custom sizing, but because you're in India, it's possible to make it work, this custom type thing. You'll need a tailor on hand, which you know, then your job becomes managing people. But I'm gonna go through the rest of your questions. But yes, normally I would tell people not to do custom sizing. It's very difficult to do. But if you are living in India where there's tailors everywhere and it's accessible, it could work. Low MOQ. This is something great that a lot of people say when they email me. There is no such thing as a low MOQ. When I worked for Walmart, a low MOQ was 10,000 pieces. We made 1 million pieces per style for a lot of styles. 10,000 pieces was a test order. It was like a sample order for them. Now, 10,000 pieces is nowhere near what anyone on this call is probably going to maybe ever order. It's relative, right? So when you tell me low MOQ, what are we talking? Like 1 piece, 10 pieces, 100 pieces, 1,000 pieces? All those are low MOQs depending on who you ask. So always use numbers, always use stats. I need a good price. Okay, like what's a good price? Like is it Shein prices? Is it, like what are we talking about here? So be very specific whenever you talk to anyone about what it is that you want. Don't talk vaguely, don't talk in, extremes. Say what it is that you want exactly. And if you don't know what it is that you want exactly, you shouldn't be having the conversation until you can go to a supplier and say, I want 10 pieces of 5 styles at this price, whatever it is. It's not the time to talk to a manufacturer yet. Budget is 5K. Okay. Again, because you're in India, like that might work. How can I go about understanding how these famous Indian designers do their production of ethnic wear? If I'm sourcing from multiple regions within India to create a certain garment, should I look into building my own production space where I can house all the materials? Very expensive, and I don't have enough capital for that right now. Or are there factories that do ethnic wear production where I can ship all the materials for my vendors to them? Yeah, a lot of times we work with fabric suppliers from all over. You can ship to your factory. You just have to have a negotiation with them beforehand. A lot of times what happens, and I've seen this in India specifically, sure, we'll keep your fabrics for you. A year later, you owe us $3,000 for storage fees. We never discussed that or a price for it. And I've seen this happen to multiple people, and often people come to me and ask me to get involved. I don't. You need to negotiate that. So if you're sending things to your factory to store, ask them if there's a storage price. If they say no, you have that in writing. If they say yes, you say how much, and then you decide if you want to store your stuff there. I would not start your own facility. A lot of people in India especially want to do this. Labor is cheap, a sewing machine is cheap, it's easy to get started. But then you're managing people, and managing factory workers is very, very difficult. It's a full-time job. That's why factories exist. So if you're trying to start a brand, run a brand, grow a brand, you might not want to be in the day-to-day of getting something sewn and getting products made. I'd advise against it because it's starting a factory is also a full-time job. So now you've got 2 full-time jobs, and it's going to be very hard to get anything done well when you're doing so many things at once. Work with the factory, negotiate them storing stuff for you, and go that way. Now, down the line, if one day you want to have your own factory, that's possible, but at least get one business up and running well before you start a second business. Goes for a lot of you too that are like, I'm going to make this and that and this and that, and I have like 17. I'm a multi-hyphenate entrepreneur. A lot of these people you see on Instagram that are like multi-entrepreneurs, they aren't really that successful. Their companies aren't making money. Uh, do something and do it right, and then move on to the next thing is, my best advice. So that's yours. Okay, next we have Melissa, Intimates and Athleisure brand, beginning stages. I have the concepts now, but I need everything else. I'm interested in the process of printing on fabrics, cotton, bamboo, nylon. It's a good place to learn more about this process. I have tons of blog posts on printing. and MOQ, factories work with MOQ orders. Again, digital printing is probably going to be your friend when you're first starting out because you can do really low MOQs. It's going to be expensive, but it's going to allow you to do those low MOQs. When you get into screen printing, when you get into other roller printing, other types of printing, the MOQs go up. So you're probably going to need for screen printing like at least 110 to 200 meters, where digital printing, you can literally print 1 meter if you want to. So I would say really focus on digital sublimation, maybe two, digital sublimation, those types of printing I would focus on for you. Okay, next. Carolyn, eco-conscious e-commerce retail brand. Again, I would encourage you to look into wholesale and look into in-person retail selling just because the numbers with e-commerce aren't that great. I had a client who started an e-commerce brand and they've almost completely moved into wholesale and they're making a lot more money doing it. So try to run your business from a 2024 perspective and not like a 2019 perspective. I'm not saying there isn't money to be made in e-com, but where most people are seeing the most money being made is actually wholesale right now. Okay. Especially new brands, because wholesale acts as free advertising for you. You're in their store, you're getting their foot traffic, they're giving you orders, they're making you credible. If you're next to, Reformation or whoever else they're stocking in their store, people assume you're of high quality. You don't have to prove to them we're great. Like, okay, if like they're next to this brand in the same store, they must be great. It's free marketing and advertising. Think of it that way. Don't think of it as, oh, I have to pay, they buy my product for less, I'm making less money. Think of it as free marketing. All right. Question, do you know of a good source of, no, I'm not going to share that with you. But I do have a point for you because you're saying, I think I need cotton tricot, but I'm not sure. Tricot is a warp knit. You can get legging material that's a weft knit circular knit. I would just kind of not focus on the terms and I would go for an approach where I like this fabric. I like this fabric for these three reasons. It stretches well, it recovers well. It doesn't smell when I wear it a lot. Whatever it is you like these fabrics, find fabrics you like, send them to suppliers and say, I want just like this. Then let the suppliers tell you what you need. If you need tricot, if you need this, if you need whatever, let them guide you, but know what it is that you want. Don't just message them and say like, I need the best legging material ever. Like you're probably going to get ignored if you do that. Instead, do your research, find the fabrics that you love, go shopping, wear test, figure it out, then send that to them and say, this is the fabric that I want. Can you help me find this? And that's going to go better for you. And, a lot of times people think like, I need this fabric and they get this fabric and they're like, this isn't what I want because it wasn't actually what they wanted. So figure out what you want, cut it out, like literally cut it out and send it to a supplier and say, give me this. And that's going to be the easiest way for you to get what it is that you're looking for without getting confused by terms that, take a really long time to learn. So someone had a question. Someone's question got cut off. So someone said that they were starting cotton Spanish leisure, something leggings that you want made. The eco-conscious commerce brand that I am launching is jewelry, apparel, home decor, cosmetics. It's a lifestyle brand. The clothing line is simply one part of my brand, right? I believe you said you were launching in 6 weeks. That is not realistic. Unless you're buying like white label stuff, which is just ready-made product and putting your logo on it, your leggings are not going to be ready in 6 weeks. You're looking at three to 6 months to develop a brand new product. That's how long it's actually going to take. And people will tell you it will take less. I'll do it in 2. Sorry, this is the delay. Sorry, here's another delay. Sorry, we're working on it. Oh, this, that, the other thing. Before you know it, you're at the 3 months that everyone else quoted you. Suppliers play this game where they tell you if you don't know how things operate and you have unrealistic expectations, they will tell you whatever it is that you want to hear. So they get your order. Now you're locked in. You've given them money. You've paid for your samples, right? You paid for them in full. They can take a year to make them if they want, because you've paid them. It's done, on their end. So having a realistic timeline is really important. People will tell you, again, whatever it is that you want to hear. 90% of the time, 10% of the time, good suppliers will be like, you're crazy, it's impossible. But most people will tell you whatever you want to hear. You want this tomorrow? Sure. Whatever you want. and then you start getting the excuses. So make sure you're dealing with something realistic. You're not launching a brand in 6 weeks if you're still sourcing fabric. That's not happening. So you need to, again, another person, rewind, figure out a realistic timeline. Maybe you're launching your other products, your apparel, your home decor, your cosmetics, but these leggings will not be ready in 6 weeks. And unless you go onto Alibaba and you go and you do white label, and white label is just, they make tons of one legging and then they stamp your logo on it and stamp your logo on it. Unless you do that, if you're trying to make a custom product, it's 6 weeks is not realistic. It's just, it's no. I'm sorry. That's the truth. I wish I could tell you it was possible, but it's not. Your name and what type of brand you want to start. Okay, so Kemi, the type of brand I want to start is everyday wear, blazer, outerwear, brand inspired by African prints, modest, sophisticated, versatile, and comfy. I don't know, again, like maybe the styles are like modest coverage, but with African prints, like I've worked with a few companies that do African prints, they tend to be really loud and really colorful and really like, they've got a lot of color and vibrancy. So I don't know if I would necessarily say that's like a modest look. Sophisticated, versatile, comfy for sure. And maybe again, maybe just the silhouette is modest, like you're covered. But I would, as you're pitching this to other people, I would just kind of work on, the verbiage a little bit. What type of MOQ and order quantity your small scale again. So you didn't really tell me what you want to do. Your budget's 25,000. Okay, great. That gives you a lot of flexibility in the styles that you make, where you make, all that type of stuff. What really drives a profitable brand? I've seen amazing brands that struggle, crappy brands that do great, and everything in between. But what really helps, where should my efforts be if ROI is the utmost importance to me? Okay, so this is a really great question. And it kind of goes back to, and a story comes to mind actually. But it goes back to what I was saying before, that you can copy what everyone is doing on the surface, but you don't know the 80%, the 90% that's happening behind closed doors. And okay, so before I worked in manufacturing, when I was in college, going to school for textiles, I went to school full time at night, and I worked full time in PR during the day. Um, I don't know, there's something wrong with me. I need to be doing a lot at once. So I learned a lot while I was doing that. And this story is really good because I knew nothing at the time about how anything worked in the world. We had this client, they made, I'm not going to say what they made. I don't know if I'm allowed to. They made some stuff. We had them on every single celebrity. Like we killed it with their PR. They were on page 6. They were on, like at that time, Twilight was big, and all of those celebrities, like their product was not just being worn by them, but worn, photographed, and in magazines and on websites and Perez Hilton and all that stuff. Amazing press. They went out of business like 3 months after starting to work with us. And we all felt really, really bad because like we were like, is this our fault? Like we thought we did such a good job. And our boss was like, absolutely not. We don't know anything that's going on in that company. We don't know their margins. We don't know what internal conflicts they have. We don't know their return rates. We don't know, like we don't know any of this stuff. We know we did our one job well, but we don't know anything else that happened. So again, when you're looking at the success of these companies and you're like, why are they failing? You know, they could be failing for any number of reasons that we don't know. Like, yeah, they look successful. They have these beautiful spaces, right? Mara Hoffman, another great example. She just went out of business, and she's kind of alluded to the fact like the system doesn't work. She said something along the lines, I don't know how to make money in a system like this, basically. Doing it right, the industry doesn't allow you to be successful. I don't quote me on her, but she's kind of alluded to these things that like when you're making product, we don't know what was happening on the back end. I do know she had a really expensive office space in New York City. Maybe she should have had something smaller. Maybe she should have, not been in prime real estate in Manhattan and been in Brooklyn or Queens or someplace else, like I don't know her. I'm just coming up with, I'm spitballing here. Who knows what happened in that company? But, there are places where you see these brands fail and you think, where, if I was running this, could I have saved money? So it's not about, getting the best publicist, having an agency run your ads, a store in a prime location, like we talked about with Love Shack Fancy, right? All these things that we think make us successful. It's about the back end. It's about how much is this costing? Okay, the store next to Love Shack Fancy is going to cost me $20,000 a month. I could get a store in another place that has just as good foot traffic, my clients there, and it's going to cost me five. Maybe you go the non-Love Shack Fancy route, right? Like maybe you don't have like all the things that a lot of times also when we look at other brands, we're like, wow, they have staff, they have hires, they have assistants. That doesn't equate to success. In fact, the people that I see who are like me and my 7 assistants are more like con artists than actual businesses. An intern doesn't cost anything, and a lot of people equate this to success. So you need to first look at what you view as success. And if you're looking at just like raw numbers, then I would say you have to try everything because what works for one brand doesn't work for all of them. For some people, you get your stuff on the right influencers, it really moves product. Example of this, a friend I went to high school with, his wife started a bagel company out of her house during the pandemic. And we all supported it because, that's what you do for local businesses from people that you know. And the bagels were good. And they grew and she got some press and she was voted for awards and things like that. She had to close down her business for like a week because she got so many orders when Bethany Frankel um, reviewed her bagels. So there are some people that will like explode your business and you have to make sure that you're ready too. There's such a thing as like too much too soon. And there's some influencers that have like a million views. And Bethany Frankel, she's a tastemaker. When she says go buy something, people actually go and buy it. And then there are lots of influencers who are on the beach showing their butts, and yeah, they have a million views, but like no one's actually buying what they're selling. It's just a bunch of guys there to like get pictures of girls in bikinis, right? So you have to be very careful with who you're partnering with and what they can give you, right? A million followers, a million followers, a million followers with Bethany Frankel can get you so much business you have to literally close down for a week. A million followers with some of these like Instagram models can get you zero sales. So the ROI question coming full circle, it's very difficult to say because you can do, both Bethany Frankel and the influencer. It's both technically influencer marketing. It's both technically like paid promotion, promote my brand. One can be successful, one can't. So it's not doing the things like we all know the things that we need to do. We need to be on social media. We need to be getting press. We need to be email marketing. We need to be out in public and meeting people and all that type of stuff. But we also need to be doing it correctly, getting in the right magazines, right? If you have a swimwear brand and you're in like, my dad reads like Muscle Man Mania magazine or something that like teaches men fitness, you're not gonna, what's the point? Yeah, the magazine has like 10 million readers, but none of them are your customer. So the marketing is getting the right marketing for your company. And again, that goes back to understanding your brand, understanding your niche, understanding all of this. So if you're going to get started now, again, rewinding, versatile, comfy, African prints, you're probably going to want to start out in whatever community you can find that's wearing this. Find influencers that wear African prints. Find, maybe some African boutiques, different things like that. Find where these people are and start there. Your plan for marketing is going to be very different than the pickleball brand, than the Hawaiian brand, than whatever brand. So I'm sorry, that was like a very convoluted way and a lot of stories for answering that. But the answer is like, it's not doing the things, it's doing the things right. Which I guess could be the theme of this entire phone call. It's not finding the factory, it's working with the factory properly. It's not getting in an influencer's hands, it's getting on the right influencer's hands. That is what you need to focus on. So yeah, again, with the crappy brands that are doing great, maybe they aren't doing great. Rent the Runway, they've only become profitable in the last like 2 years. They've been blowing through money, losing money every year. Their household name, we all know them. We've probably all rented from them, but they're not actually making money. They have investors that are giving them money and they hope one day they'll make money and they're starting to. But a lot of these brands, they're going out of business. Allbirds, right? They went out of business. Everlane is like constantly in trouble. Polo every couple years, they like lay everyone on the team off and start over so they can like pay them cheaper salaries, right? If you're in the industry, you like know all this stuff. You know, people are constantly, they look successful, all these brands. I think most, and they're, no, I'm not going to get into that. You know, there are lots of brands that look like they're doing really well. Again, like Mara Hoffman, right? Like she just won this big award. It looked like she was doing so well. And like a week later, she's like, I'm closing my doors. I can't sustain this. You know, so what you see on the outside is not necessarily what's happening on the inside. And then you get these brands. I work with some of them. I've never heard of you. I don't know how you're selling this product. You have like no visibility anywhere. And they're ordering like 1,000 pieces per style. And it's like ugly stuff too. And I'm like, who's buying this? But you know, they're going the wholesale route and they're doing all of that. So much like the internet, it's all kind of smoke and mirrors, and how you present yourself isn't necessarily how your business is operating. Um, then that's, you know, it's like Instagram versus reality, right? All those posts, a lot of these brands are like that. So don't copy what they're doing. Figure out what's right for your brand. Use them as inspiration, but don't use them as a blueprint. Because if you follow their path, it never really ends well. All right, Lucy from New Zealand, making shirt dresses and shirts and pants. I'm in Jaipur already. Maybe you should connect. Oh, wait. Then this is a second question from you. Um, discuss personal relationship factory came in contact with through personal relationships and recommendations. We were discussing making samples. The question is, how do I determine quantities and sizes, right? We didn't make the samples, get everything done, do the work while you're there, and then take a step back and figure it out. Is your plan. Emily, women's clothing brand, similar styles to ModCloth, 50 to 100 piece MLQ. Right now, we're working with 2 factories in India. We're already a year in and part of an existing business. So we're working with our ongoing cash flow. Okay. But that doesn't answer the question of how much money you have. You know, you say you have cash flow. Is that like $1,000 or $100,000? That's going to totally determine like all of the advice I give you. Because $1,000 of cash flow is going to have a very different strategy than $100,000 of cash flow with a manufacturing strategy. So we're working with an ongoing cash flow. Okay. One of our factories seems to be unable to get the colors correct on our fabric prints, mostly digital. Okay. This goes back to vetting your supplier. We've wasted a lot of time and money going back and forth with the strike offs. How can we develop a more streamlined method? It's time to say goodbye to the supplier. If you've been working with them for a year and they can't hit colors, move on. Cut your losses. Do not spend another year hoping that they get it right. And I guarantee if they get this swatch right, your production will still come out shit. Because what they're going to do is they're going to get so frustrated and they want your order. They're going to find someone that will make that strike off exactly as you want it, but they're probably not going to be able to reproduce it in bulk. If it's been a year, it's time to go. How could stream method of developing the prints, and is this unusual for the factory to be so off? We're using Pantone colors with physical color books. Yeah, it's not you, it's them. So go. That's, you know, really the best advice I can give you. And again, vetting your suppliers. You never should have been this far without, or this long for that matter, without some kind of vetting process beforehand. So yeah, I mean, I would say again, I don't know. It sounds like you have 2 suppliers and one supplier is doing well. Like lean on them for now and find a second supplier that will help you. So you have, you know, a backup if something goes wrong with the first supplier that seems things are going right with. But yeah, I think after a year, you have to just go, and you have to do a better job of vetting before you go down this road so far. You know, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, and I see it all the time, is sticking with a bad supplier. It's hard to find someone that you can convince to work with you when you're a small brand. I get it. You're really excited. Okay, finally, I found someone. They want to make my product. It's at the right price point. Let's go. And then when things go wrong, you're like, well, maybe we can work through it. Okay. Like, because the thought of trying to find someone else to make your product sounds like terrible to have to go through. And sometimes you just have to call it. And if they're not hitting your colors and it's been a year, it's time. It's time. All right, Karen, is there a market for more startup brands? It seems to me so flooded, yet I can't really find the things I want to wear that suit my style and body considerations. What is the minimum startup capital you need? What are the three top mistakes? Okay, so I think we've talked about like a million mistakes that brands make, so I'm not going to get into that. In terms of the market being flooded, it absolutely is. Everyone has a side gig, everyone has a hustle, everyone's starting a brand. Thanks to Shopify, it's easier, and Alibaba, it's incredibly easy to start something. I think what it comes down to, the success of all of these startup brands is your niche. Even if you're moving into an incredibly saturated niche, there's always a way to stand out. And if you're standing out in that niche, you will succeed. If you are marketing correctly, like we just spoke about, right? It's not just about getting in front of a million people, it's getting in front of the right million people. Or maybe you skip the million people and you get in front of the right 100 people. 100 people who are your target audience are worth so much more than a million randos. It's changing that mindset, I think, that a lot of people don't have. So that's what I would say. I would say you're right. It is saturated. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that it's not. It is super saturated. But if you have a unique product and you're standing out and you're speaking to your customers in an authentic way, you 100% can succeed. And, everyone on my success stories, they're succeeding, they're doing it, they're quitting their jobs. We talked about Rosie in the beginning. She's an amazing example of someone who started with nothing. She knew nothing about the fashion industry. She just knew she wanted to do this, and she did. And she was very strategic with who she partnered with and how she made her product and what she did. And that's where you see the movement. She was she was true to herself. She wasn't trying to be anyone that she wasn't or another brand. And people connect with that. And she has like, go on her Instagram. These lines are insane. They're like 500-person lines around the corner waiting to get her new collections, which is amazing because she's only like a 3-year-old brand, to have such a following like that. So it's really about not trying to be anyone else or do what anyone else is doing and doing it your way. And that's how you stand out in all the noise. And the noise isn't going to slow down, and it shouldn't stop you from doing what you want to do. You just need to be confident and true to yourself and to go about things the right way and not try to kind of piece together this roadmap based on like the little bit you see in the public world that brands share with you. All right, that is everyone's questions. That was a lot. Okay, no one has anything in the comments, no additional questions. I think all the questions were really good. I think, again, my goal with answering these questions, like we could have gotten a lot more in depth into all of it. Also, like it helps when I know your brand better. Georgie, no, I didn't see your question. And when did you send it? Because if you sent it this morning, I didn't look. Yeah. Okay, so I am going to do the giveaway now for anyone that wants to join the sourcing bootcamp. It's 8 weeks, 8 live sessions. The live sessions are similar to this, where you're getting my advice, but they're a lot more interactive. I don't have time. The reason I turned off the microphones is because we've already gone an hour and a half, and having people talk, and sometimes people talk for a really long time. We could be here all day. So it was kind of just me answering as best I could. Again, giving you the advice that I could give you that will allow you to not make expensive mistakes and keep moving forward the best that I could. If you want, so we're going to do 50% off. So it goes down from 3,000 to 1,500. And if you want to be entered in the raffle, and if you're not really going to join, don't do it, because I had that once someone won and they were like, I'm not really interested. I just wanted to see if I could win. It kind of sucked for other people. So if you are interested, you can raise your hand or you can just comment in the chat. And maybe while everyone's doing that, let me see if your question is quick, Georgie, I'll answer it. But if not, let me see. So bedding, I'm learning, apply to making bedding, contact with some good factories for block printing. Struggling to find block printing and embroidery. Do they exist? Absolutely. I work with factories that do block printing and embroidery. Or will I have to send the bedding to another factory to be finished? No, they'll handle it all for you. How do I find out where John Robshaw, US bedding designer, makes his bedding in Jaipur? Again, I mean, if you take anything away from this, that's not the question you should be asking. It's not about who getting into your competitor's factory. It's about all the other stuff. And a good factory will be able to make it. In fact, you probably don't want to be in your competitor's factory. If you're in your competitor's factory, like they're seeing what you're making and they see you copying them essentially. So I wouldn't focus on that. There are plenty of good suppliers out there without trying to do exactly right. Get off of this roadmap of I'm going to do exactly what they're doing. That's not a roadmap to success. I'm planning a visit to Jaipur. Is it best to do it for sampling and then I need to go back for quality control? I don't know what your budget is. Your budget is 50,000. Yeah, you've got the budget to travel, but you don't need to. You can hire someone to do your quality assurance. The best time for everyone to do sampling, to go for a visit is sampling. So I would first send my designs. I would have them make a first sample. I would go and I would work on the first sample. So I'd have my strike offs ready. I'd have my lab dips ready. I'd have my fit samples ready. And then I would arrive in the factory. Then together we would go through everything in person. I would give them revisions to make. Maybe on the trip they'd make the revisions, or maybe I'd have to leave depending on timing, depending on how quickly they work. You need something when you visit. A lot of people, and we all avoid them in Jaipur, it'll be so hard to find. I'm just gonna come and I'm gonna play and I'll figure out what I want when I get there. No, you will not waste our time like that. No one's allowing you to come in and play. No one's allowing you to come in with nothing. Send them something, get something going, have something ready so you have something to meet about while you're there in person. There's no point of going and no one's whipping something up out of thin air while you're there. That's not how it works. So sampling after the first round of sampling is the best time to visit. You can go and you can check your production if you want, if you have the money, if you have the capacity, if you want to go and visit India, do it. But if you don't, there's plenty of people you can hire that will do your quality assurance for you. There are professional companies, there are freelancers, there's lots of options. Out for quality planning visits. What about using an agent? Yeah, you can do that. Okay, so that is all of your questions. All right, let's see who we have. We have Elaine. And then we have, all right. Hold on, bear with me. Michelle, Melissa, Andrea, Georgie, Karen, Isabella, Anna, Tracy. Okay. So I'm gonna just put this, sorry, my connection was a little bad in the middle. What did you ask that people are entering for the 50% raffle, off raffle? So I need someone who didn't enter. I need you to give me a number between 10 and 20. Just type it in the chat if you did not enter the raffle. 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Michelle is the winner. Send me your email right now. In the group before we hang up. And for everyone else that didn't win, you can use Camp 250 as a code to get $250 off. I'm not going to give any more discounts. So if you are interested, it's good for the next 24 hours or until tonight, I think it turns off. Here's the link in the group chat if you do want to join. Again, it's 8 weeks of lessons week by week. So it takes you through the whole process of let's get your product vetted. Let's learn how to communicate our designs to the factory. Now let's find the factory. Now let's do the sourcing. Now let's do all the things. And then the bonuses we have for this, I'm doing how I grew my Instagram account, behind the scenes of that. I went from 40,000 to 160 now in 8 months. I don't have bots. I don't have anything like that. I use a strategy that is data. It's hard. It's a lot harder than buying these bots and buying likes and follow pods. But if you follow the data of your account, you can do it too. And then also the 30-minute hack that will double your sales, which will be good once you launch. The times for the sessions are 10 a.m. on Tuesdays and 10 p.m. on Thursdays, New York time. If you can't make those times, what we do is we record the session so you can watch the replay. And what a lot of people do, most people don't come live. They'll give their question, email it to me, I'll answer it, they'll watch the recording, and then we have a group WhatsApp chat. So if they have follow-up questions, then we just chat the rest of the time in the WhatsApp. So, it's nice to join live, but I'd say like of all the questions I get every week, probably only 20% of the people actually show up to the video just because we're all busy and they watch the recording and then we talk about it in the chat. Michelle, yes. So you won. Let me just copy your email. Does anyone else have any other questions before we go? Anyone? Okay, cool. Thank you all for coming. How do you feel about manufacturing sourcing in Turkey? Yeah. Again, it kind of goes back to this like I won't make in China because it's unethical. Like Turkey's a big place. You'll get terrible suppliers, you'll get fantastic suppliers. Anywhere you go in the world, I can promise you that. So, um, you have to do the work, right? You have to kind of the theme of the day, I guess, is taking a step back. You have to take a step back and, okay, why do you want to make in Turkey? Are you interested in traveling there? Go for it. If being in India, Turkey, wherever it is part of like your life dream or goals, make there. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're doing it because you think, one place is the only place to get a certain product, you can get anything made anywhere in the world. There are places that are better and worse, right? Like India, we can make swim. We probably shouldn't, but we can. You can get anything made anywhere, and some places are better than other places at making certain things, but you have to figure it out. Like every company in Bali isn't going to make great swimwear. You have to vet it. Okay, do you do one-on-one calls instead of, yeah, so I'm going to be offering I don't do one-on-one calls. Again, I used to do one-on-one calls and the success rates, like for me, I don't, I mean, it's not that I don't want to work with you, but it's that like I don't need your money. And the reason I do this is because I want to see people succeed. So if things aren't like I'm down to try anything, but if things aren't working, I'm not going to keep doing it. I made a lot of money selling supplier lists, but at the end of the day, when none of those brands launched, to me, it was unethical. It's unethical for me to do that when I know no one's being successful doing it. Same with the one-off calls. A lot of people think like if I just get these questions answered, I'm good on my own. And the reality is you maybe, but probably not. Again, like none of these brands that did the one-on-one calls, there were a few that had some success, but majority of them they didn't they didn't succeed, and for me it's not worth it. So the next one-on-one coaching that I'm going to be doing is going to be a month long one-on-one coaching. You get 8 calls in that 1 month and it's $5,000. And basically every week you have a set of tasks and you have to do the tasks, and I'm there helping you, guiding you, and most importantly making you accountable, because it's really easy to say I'm going to do these things and not do them. So that's the one-on-one coaching program. Again, the boot camp, that's the cheapest way to work with me if you want to interact. Also, if you want a community, if you want all those things, you can ask me anything you want in the boot camp. And also it's interactive, right? Like you get to actually talk back. But yeah, I mean, these things that I'm sure you think you need, like I've done it, I've tried it, I listen, like some of you I think have been with me since like 2020 or 2019 following my emails. I've tried a lot of different things because people told me that's what they needed and I don't see the success. So I'm not going to do it. Um, because at the end of the day, like one of my most proud accomplishments is my 10% launch rate, which is insane. Like just go on your own and Google, like, what is the average course completion rate for an online course? It's like 1 to 5% completing, not actually executing, just watching all the videos. It's 1 to 5%. So having 10% of the people actually launch and have a successful brand, that's really high. And that's my goal. And I want it higher. And that's why I'm kind of revamping. Launch My Conscious line is getting revamped in the fall, and that's why the price is going up to $10,000 because I'm hoping to get the launch rate up to 50%, and I think I can. Because that's what's important to me. That's what I want. Those are my goals. My goals are not, I have a consulting business. I work with brands. I make good money doing that with helping small brands. Like my goal is to get people to launch, not to be spinning their wheels or wasting money or, you know, floating around thinking, I'm sure you're all here because you probably all feel that way. You feel like you're doing tons of work, but you're not actually getting anywhere. Nobody wants that. So no, with the one-on-one calls, I'm not doing that anymore. They don't help anyone. They just make you think that you have a plan when you don't actually have a solid plan because creating a plan takes more than an hour phone call. That's the reality of it. Unfortunately, and I know that's not what people want to hear, but again, my focus for 2024 and 2025 is increasing my launch rate for my students. So I'm only moving with things that I know are proven to work. Okay. So yeah, that's it. That's kind of all of that. Again, Michelle, I'm going to send you an email with a special code so you can get your 50% off. Everyone else, thank you for coming. I hope to see you soon, whether you're going to work with me or not in the program. Again, the code CAMP 250, CAMP 250 is only good until tonight. So if you want the discount, get it. Don't pay full price. A lot of times people wait until the last minute and they're like, oh, I'm going to do it. Like save the $250, reinvest it into your company. I think regardless, I know 3,000 sounds like a high price point, but it will save you from a lot of mistakes and a lot of time and a lot of just heartache. Getting these strike offs that aren't the right colors that could have been prevented. Being in India and not knowing how much you should be ordering, like, should never have happened, right? A lot of these things, this is what it saves you. So, is the boot camp 3,000 or 5,000? I couldn't hear. It's 3,000. 5,000 is for the 1 month of private coaching, one-on-one coaching. So that's 8 sessions as well. They're a little bit different. It's one-on-one instead of a group setting. You don't get any videos or any lessons with the one-on-one. It's completely tailored to you. Whereas the way the boot camp works is you get a lesson, you watch the lesson, you get a homework, you do the homework, you ask your questions, you chat with everyone, you can get the group's feedback, which is really nice to get, outside perspective on what you're working on. And then you move on to lesson number 2. And if you just do every lesson, every homework, every week, it's going to move you in the right order to the goal of getting your product made. So it's going to take you from your idea to being able to get your samples made. That's the 8-week program. In a very simple way that like explains everything. So that's that. I will see if anyone has any more questions. I'm going to hang up. I'll see everyone. I'm on email. You all have my email. You get my emails. Feel free to email me. I'm happy to, chat over email. Again, I don't do phone calls. I don't do like 15-minute calls or anything like that. Everything's over email. DMs is also fine. Just no voice notes or anything like that. Where do you need to be in the process to attend the boot camp and have it be effective? An idea. If you have an idea of what you want to make, we'll go through everything. We go through the budgeting. Well, technically budgeting isn't a manufacturing thing. It's the start of your manufacturing. It's figuring out what you can make, how much you can make, all these things that you need to know before you talk to anyone. So as long as you have an idea and you think your idea is a good one and you believe in it, we can get you started. And we can work through the beginning of what you should make, how much you should make, all of that together. Will you be holding this boot camp in the summer? Yeah, it's only for the summer. After this, it goes away. So what's coming up? This closes, the doors to this close is the 19th or the 17th, I forget. After that closes, I'll be doing the one-on-ones, which are $5,000. And after the summer ends in September, the one-on-ones are ending because I won't have the capacity for it in the fall and the winter. And we're going to be doing the Launch by Conscious Line reboot, which is going to be, it's going to be so much more than the current program. And that's also why the price is so much more. But it's going to be like twice a week calls, goal setting, like all these different things, a lot more actionable stuff, a lot more accountability, because that's what I've noticed through the years. A lot of people come to videos like this, and you get sucked into this world where you're constantly learning, you're constantly listening to podcasts, you're constantly listening to YouTube, you're learning, 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 learning. You're not doing. So a lot of challenges. I do challenges with prizes. Like one prize is a $300 year Shopify subscription, like things like that. We're going to be doing a lot more of, which keeps people accountable and, you know, excited to get their work done and things like that. So that's that. It's again, it's a hefty price tag. I'm only going to let in, I think, 5 people max to that because I really want it to be small, focused, and getting everyone over the finish line to launch. So that's that. So that's what's happening. Boot camp for the summer. After the boot camp is closed, one-on-ones. After the one-on-ones are done at the end of August, beginning of September, we are going to be doing the 6-month really intensive Launch My Conscious Line reboot. And then I'm not sure what will come after that. We're already talking about like the winter and the spring at that point. So that's the plan. What's the dates? The October is when Launch My Conscious Line, the $10,000 program will start. Now is the boot camp, and then the one-on-ones are going to start probably at the beginning of July. We'll be doing that. And I'm only going to take 5 clients for one-on-ones as well. Once they sell out, they sell out because it's a lot of my time. We're doing a lot of calls together. It's one-on-one. I'm really like in your business. So yes, that's everything that I have lined up. Instagram, free videos, blogs. I kind of took a break from those, but starting in July, we're going to be having more blog posts. So make sure to follow along with that. And then the emails, the weekly emails with information that kind of just lets you know stories of what I'm seeing, what I'm encountering. You know, I had a few calls with clients. I'll be talking about those calls, an inside look of people's businesses, what's working, what's not working, all that type of stuff. So even if you don't have money or you don't want to join one of the programs, there's still lots of free stuff. All right, I will see everyone hopefully in the boot camp or private consultancy or program, Launch My Conscious Line program in the fall. If not, stay in touch. My email, DMs on Instagram are also fine. I check them all personally. I manage my account. I message everyone back in the DMs, and good luck, everyone. And I guess, yeah, most important takeaway, take your time. It's not a rush. The brands that are the most successful, they take their time. So just take your time, do it once, do it right. And don't let any of the other noise, how fast another brand is going or your friend is going or anything else detract. Just stay on your own path and get it done. All right. Bye, everyone.